Thank you for taking the time to zoom into this professional development session on grades and results. My name is Susan Gadd, and in this session we'll cover the grades process to assist you with the finalisation of grades for this term. Each term I will send around an email providing you with a guide to assist you in the finalisation of grades, including these important dates. Please ensure you read this email and follow any instructions provided. It's important to familiarise yourself with the university's grades and results procedure, which can be accessed via StaffNet and is publicly available to students on the CQUniversity website. CQUniversity has two types of units, graded and non-graded. It's important to ensure when finalising grades that all conditions included in the unit profile, for example minimum marks and pass-fail components, have been applied correctly. The passing grades available in graded units range from a high distinction to a pass. A failure indicates a mark below 49.5% or when overall pass requirements are not met. In non-graded units, the only final grade available are pass non-graded or fail. At CQUniversity, we use the following interim results. I will expand more on what these interim results mean throughout this presentation. One of the main areas of confusion at this time of term is determining if a student is eligible for an interim result. The next few slides have been developed to assist you to identify the correct interim result for the scenario. This scenario includes 3 assessment items. 2 of these assessment items do not have a specified minimum mark, and therefore a mark of 49.5% is considered a pass and the examination has a specified minimum mark. The student has passed the first 2 assessments but has failed to meet the minimum mark for the exam, but they do have an overall score of 56 out of 100, which has been auto-calculated by Moodle as a pass. However, in this scenario, as a student has failed the examination, which has a minimum mark, but has an overall mark of 49.5% or above, the student is eligible for a supplementary exam. In this scenario, it's almost the same, except the student has received an overall mark of 48 out of 100, and therefore Moodle will auto-calc to a fail. However, again in this scenario, as a student has only failed the examination and has a mark of 44.5 or above, the student is eligible for a supplementary exam. In this scenario, there's a minimum requirement for all pieces of assessment. The student has passed assessment 1 and the exam, but has failed to meet the minimum mark for the second assessment only, but again has an overall total of 51 out of 100, so Moodle will auto-calculate this as a pass. However, as a student has failed 1 assessment item only and scored above 44.5%, they are eligible for a supplementary assessment. In this scenario, the student has failed to score 49.5% in the second assessment, but has also failed to meet the minimum requirement for the laboratories assessment. However, their overall mark is 51 out of 100, so Moodle is auto-calculating the grade to a pass. However, as a student has not only not met the minimum mark for one of the assessment items and has also failed another, the student would not be able to pass the unit, nor would they be eligible for a supplementary assessment. The key points when assessing eligibility for supplementaries are that they must have an overall mark of at least 44.5%. They have submitted all items of assessment and they do have the ability to pass the unit by repeating a single assessment. Students will not be eligible and will instead receive a failing grade if they have no potential to pass the unit by repeating a single assessment. They have failed to score either 49.5% or the minimum mark as outlined in the unit profile in more than 1 assessment task, or if they have failed a pass-fail component of the unit. Once a student has completed a supplementary and it has been marked, it is expected that the new mark will be added to the gradebook, where it will recalculate the new overall mark. You will then need to submit a change of grade to have the grade converted to either a pass or a fail only. Students are not eligible for a grade higher than a pass. A supplementary assessment or supplementary examination is only awarded by unit coordinators or school course committees in cases where a student meets the criteria and cannot be requested by the student. Students who are awarded a supplementary assessment or examination are unable to defer their assessment or examination any further. In this scenario, the student only completed one assessment task with an overall mark of 15 out of 100. Moodle will auto-calculate this as a fail. However, in this scenario, the grade should be changed to an AF or absent fail. Although an absent fail will appear on a student's transcript as a fail, in the system it will be recorded as an absent fail for reporting purposes, which identifies the difference between students who have engaged and still failed the unit and students who have failed due to a lack of engagement. Although not specified in policy, if a student has submitted less than 50% of their required assessment tasks, it's a good guide as to whether it can be considered an absent fail. In this scenario, the student has passed both assessment tasks but has not sat the final exam. This has been auto-calced as a fail. However, as the exam has a minimum mark and therefore sitting the exam is considered a requirement of passing the unit, the interim grade would need to be a NS or not sat. Please note there are units where students are able to pass the unit having not sat the exam. Again, an interim result of NS will show on the student's transcript as a fail, but are recorded as a NS for internal reporting purposes to again highlight students who have failed as a result of non-engagement. In this scenario, the student has passed the two assessments they have submitted, but have a formally approved assessment extension processed within the official assessment extension system, and therefore meet the university requirements for an extension. Therefore, they should be awarded an interim result of DA or deferred assessment. It is important that all interim results of DA can be reconciled with an approved extension request for the purpose of reporting at your school course committee meetings. This student has passed the two assessments but has informed you that they have requested a deferred exam. As the exam has a minimum mark, an interim result of not sat should be applied. Your LTSO will change the interim result to a DE if the request is approved. Only Learning and Teaching Services officers have access to apply a grade of DE. In this scenario, the student has passed two assessments, but for valid and justifiable reason has been unable to attend the residential school. This will auto-calc to a fail. However, this should be amended to a PO for practicum outstanding. POs can also be used when a student has been unable to complete their practicum component within the current term or has completed their practicum component. However, there is an assessment item directly linked to the practicum that is awaiting submission or marking. In this scenario, this student has passed assessment 1 and as a result of an approved extension has now submitted their work but has not yet been marked. Therefore, an interim result of RO should be applied. However, please also note that in this scenario, as a student has failed to meet the minimum mark for the laboratory component, the only final outcomes could either be a fail, if they fail to obtain a mark of at least 49.5%, or it may convert to a SA or supplementary assessment, as the student will have only failed one assessment task. The interim result of RO should only be used when the marking and return of an assessment item has not been completed in time for certification of grades or if there is an ongoing academic misconduct case. In this scenario, the student has only submitted one assessment item but has informed you they have applied for withdrawal. Regardless of what the student tells you they have done, the interim result in this case should be an AF, and if the withdrawal application is successful, student governance will convert the grade to a WF. Interim results should be converted at the earliest possible opportunity to one of the grades outlined. Supplementary assessments should be issued to students within 2 weeks of certification, and they should be marked and a change of grade requested within 4 weeks of certification. All interim results will be converted to fails if they remain outstanding for 3 terms after certification, unless we are notified otherwise by the Dean of School or nominee. Please be aware that any marks or grades released prior to certification of grades are provisional until they have been confirmed through the Education Committee assessment meeting. Exam marks will not be released until after certification of grades, and final grades will only be published on certification of grades each term. It is the unit coordinator's responsibility to ensure all grades in their unit's gradebooks have been calculated and applied correctly and are in line with all university policy and procedure. The unit coordinator report and assessment meeting checklists are both very useful tools to be used to ensure all necessary requirements have been addressed prior to the school meeting, and to ensure the minutes from the meetings can be used as an effective auditing tool for when learning and teaching services are performing their auditing of units prior to the final meeting. I would recommend your attendance at one of the Moodle Gradebook final grade sessions run by Lisa Reynolds. The key messages to assist in determining final grades: please ensure you refer to the unit profile or any specific passing criteria minimum marks required in order to pass the unit. All students with an interim grade of DA are linked to a formal assessment extension request in the assessment extension system and recorded in the school committee meeting minutes. Interim grades of PO is applied where a student has not completed the practical component of the unit, which may include the assessment submission specifically linked to the practicum. And all interim grades of RO must have a suitable reason, that is no fault of the student, for this grade that is recorded in the school committee meetings, for example, awaiting marking or outstanding academic misconduct case. As we have demonstrated, a student's final grades can be incorrectly calculated for various reasons, and therefore all grades need to be checked and audited for accuracy. Just because it calculates to a pass does not necessarily mean they should be awarded a pass. It is your responsibility to ensure all final grades have been moderated and audited as true and correct prior to submission to the Education Committee assessment meeting. Thank you for taking the time to watch this professional development session.